Krishna Gopina Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Brahmanandi. Hari 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 Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Swamini Namani Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Statmani Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Prabhupada Ki Jai. Narayana Namaste Chanarum Chevan Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Gudirayat Nashta Praiswa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sivaya Bhavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hi. Good morning, dear devotees. Please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Time is relative, but still we'll say welcome to the last day of 2023. Hare Krishna. So this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class is from Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 37. So as usual, I'm going to chant 3 times, and anyone who feels inclined can do so after that. Purusasya Mukham Brahma Kshatram Etasya Bhava Uvro Vaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Shudro Vyajayata Purushasya Mukham Brahma Kshatram Etasya Bhava Uvro Vaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Shudro Vyajayata Purushasya Mukham Brahma Shatam Etasya Bhava Urvo Vaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Shudro Vyajayata. Hare Krishna.
Purushasya mukham brahma kshatram etasya bahava urvor vaishyo bhagavata padbhyam shudro vyajayata.
Hare Krishna.
Purushasya Mukham Brahma Kshatram Etasya Bahava Urvor Vaishyo Bhagavata Padbhyam Sudro Vyajayata.
Anyone else?
Purushasya Mukham Brahma Kshatram Etasya Bhava Urvar Vaishyo Bhagavataha Padbham Shudro Bhajataya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Purushasya Mukham Brahma Kshatram Etasya Bhavaha Urvor Vaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Shudro Vyajayata.
Purusasya mukham brahma kshatram etasya bhava urvorvaishyo bhagavata padbhyam shudro vyajayata.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, we'll do word for word. Purushasya.
Hare Krishna. I want to do Hare Krishna.
Yeah, please go on.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. पुरुषस्य मुखं ब्रह्म छत्रम् एतस्य बाहवः उर्वोर्वश्यो भगवतः पदव्याम रुद्रो वया जायत.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Word for word. Purushasya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mukam, mouth. Brahma is the Brahmanas. Shatram, the royal order. Itasya, of him. Bhava, the arms. Urvo, the thighs. Vaishya are the mercantile men. Bhagavata, of the personality of Godhead. Padvyam, from his legs. Shudra, the laborer class. Vyajayata, become manifested. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada Ki Jai. And Mataji, I'm sorry, I did not realize you wanted to chime in before starting. Apologize. Translation by Srila Prabhupada.
I was not able to unmute.
Oh, okay. I've struggled with that before also. Actually, yesterday.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arms, and the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Shudras are born of his legs. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. All living beings are stated to be the parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and how they are so is explained in this verse. The four divisions of human society, namely the intelligent class, the Brahmanas, the administrative class, the Kshatriyas, the mercantile class, the Vaishyas, and the laborer class, the Shudras, are all in different parts of the body of the Lord. As such, no one is different from the Lord. The mouth of the body and the legs of the body are none different constitutionally. But the mouth or head of the body is qualitatively more important than the legs. At the same time, the mouth, the legs, the arms, and the thighs are all component parts of the body. These limbs of the body of the Lord are meant to serve the complete whole. The mouth is meant for speaking and eating. The arms are meant for the protection of the body. The legs are meant for carrying the body. And the waist of the body is meant for maintaining the body. The intelligent class in society, therefore, must speak on behalf of the body, as well as accept foodstuff to satisfy the hunger of the body. The hunger of the Lord is to accept the fruits of sacrifice. The Brahmanas, or the intelligent class, must be very expert in performing such sacrifices. For to speak for the Supreme Lord means to glorify the Lord by means of propagating the knowledge of the Lord as it is, broadcasting the factual nature of the Lord and the factual position of all other parts of the whole body. Okay. The Brahmanas, therefore, are required to know the Vedas, or the ultimate source of knowledge. Veda means knowledge, and Anta means the end of it. According to Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is the source of everything. Aham Sarvasya Bhavava, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 8. And thus the end of all knowledge. Vedanta is to know the Lord, to know our relationship with Him, and to act according to that relationship only. The parts of the body are related to the body. Similarly, the living being must know his relationship with the Lord. The human life is especially meant for this purpose, namely to know the factual relationship of every living being with the Supreme Lord. Without knowing his relationship, human life is spoiled. The intelligent class of men, the Brahmanas, are therefore especially responsible for broadcasting this knowledge of our relationship with the Lord and leading the general mass of people to the right path. The administrative class is meant for protecting living beings so they can serve this purpose. The mercantile class is meant for producing food grains and distributing them to the complete human society so that the whole population is given a chance to live comfortably and discharge the human duties, the duties of human life. Sorry. The mercantile class is also required to give protection to the cows in order to get sufficient milk and milk products, which alone can give the proper health and intelligence to maintain a civilization perfectly meant for knowledge of the ultimate truth. And the laborer class, who are neither intelligent nor powerful, can help by physical services to the other higher classes and thus be benefited by their cooperation. Therefore, the universe is a complete unit in relationship with the Lord. And without this relationship with the Lord, the whole human society is disturbed and is without any peace and prosperity. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Brahmano Syamukha Asid Bahu Rajanya Krita. Hare Krishna. Oma Ginat Mirandasya, Gyana Ginashalakaya, Chakshu Umbilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manogristam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Twayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaisnavam Scha. Shri Rupa Sakijatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitantam Sajivam. Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tata Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priya. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirveshesha Sunyavari Paschathyadi Chitarini. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurati Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himadya Divacha Vishnaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So the translation again. The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arms, the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Shudras are born of his legs. Okay. So in this particular text, the Varna system or the Varna ashram system is being focused on. Krishna says, Chaturvarna Maya Shishtam, says, I set up the Varna system. In Bhagavad Gita, he says that. And we also know that by just reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll find out that all the Raja Rishis, the kings that were saintly and well-trained and had the welfare of the people at heart, lived with their people established in this Varna system. The Brahmanas were there, the Kshatriyas were there, the kings themselves were in the Kshatriya Varna, and they were the leaders. And there was no wars at the time the Rajarishis were there for just accumulating for sense gratification ever. It was always a situation where there were either some kings, smaller kings, that is kings, and then the emperor. The emperor is the ruler of the whole planet. If some kings were out of line, then the emperor, of course, make sure that they either come in line or there'll be consequences. But that's for punishment's sake. Even so, they were very sensitive to the welfare of all peoples, including those under the errant or the problem rulers. So in that way, things were kept very, very nicely. Maharaj Yudhishthira's time, Maharaj Prithu's time, Maharaj Prithu, incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Maharaj Rishabhadev's time, Maharaj Pariksit's time, which is very close to this particular text where we are now, though it was in Canto 1. So they were all very, 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 very careful about what they did with the people. They protected the people very nicely. But anyway, the Brahmanas are supposed to teach. First of all, Srila Prabhupada says, all living beings are parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. So based on their activities, those 4 divisions are put in different parts of the Lord. The Brahmanas represent the mouth. The mouth is used to teach and also to eat, true. Speak. The Brahmanas speak, and they have to speak from the Vedas. They also have to act according to the speech that they give, so that they will not be hypocritical. So the parts and parcels of the Lord where these different Brahmanas are stated or are situated, and the Brahmanas represent the mouth, Kshatriyas the arms, the Vaishyas the thighs, and the Shudras born of his legs. We will concentrate much more on Brahmanas and Kshatriyas this one, and then a little bit about the Vaishyas. So Srila Prabhupada says, all of these parts constitute the body. Still, because of the functions, there are some that are, in a sense, more important. The head of the body is qualitatively more important than the legs. If the head is cut off, the body cannot operate. But if the legs are amputated, the body can still operate, even though not at 100% capability, but it still will be there. So these limbs, they serve the complete whole. Now, Srila Prabhupada charges the Brahmanas then. They should speak on behalf of the whole society, the body. And they should also accept foodstuff to satisfy the hunger of the body. They present to the Lord foodstuff in a yagya form. And the Lord is also called yagya, so that he has to accept the fruits of the sacrifice. So Srila Prabhupada has made it simple enough for everyone to cook under certain restrictions, one of them being that you cannot taste while you're cooking, and have special utensils, plates, flatware, and so on, set aside for the Lord. And whatever we cook, we offer to the Lord first, with the mantras that go with offering to the Lord. And these are mantras that, if anyone does not know, they really, really have to, it's not difficult. Research it and find out what it is. A lot of devotees that have been at least 5 years in the society they know. It's best to say the mantras. I remember when we first came to Krishna consciousness, I was in Washington, D.C. at the time, and it was explained to us in the classes. We were holding special classes outside of the regular classes where the gurus were preaching. And the senior devotees were saying that you have to offer your food. And then this mantras were like tongue twisters for us at the time. So, but we tried our best. We were given how to offer. We were very, very determined to do that. But any person says, I don't know Sanskrit, I have a hard time reading Sanskrit, then they were told, you will still have to learn, but in the meantime, you have to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra over your food every time. You have to prepare it according to the way it's supposed to be prepared. That you have no excuse. It's easier to do. You don't taste your food, so you don't taste. Get a plate, at least one plate. And if you're going to get one plate, then get a large plate so that the different things that you offer, you take small and put in all different parts and make it very nice. And they were told, you have to cook and make it colorful too. So that, and that was the part to pull us into doing things from our heart for the Lord. So the Brahmana, so in that way, we were taught to offer what we cook, a boga, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then later on, of course, when we were determined to learn, we got to know. It's only a matter of time. You try and try and try, then you become good at pronouncing the words, and then you're able to offer nicely. You leave the Lord to eat for a while, and then you close the offering. So the Brahmanas do it in a more elaborate way. And the Prabhupada has given us a simpler way to do this. So they offer and they also teach. Now, as far as teaching is concerned, everyone can spread Krishna consciousness. That is the charge of Srila Prabhupada, and that is the charge to us by Lord Chaitanya. Wherever you go, whoever you meet, you have to talk about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a matter of fact, Srila Prabhupada dramatized it. Some of his lectures, he says, you meet someone, my dear sir, you are a nice man. You should chant Hare Krishna. Glorify the Lord. Chant Hare Krishna. And then Srila Prabhupada, sometimes he rubs in some things. He says, you are a nice man, even though he may be fool number one, but still tell him to chant. Because after all, how do you get rid of foolishness? Come to the Lord and do things according to the spiritual master, and the foolishness goes away. If you replace param drisvanivātate, you replace the foolishness with something that's good and beneficial. And the more you do it, and the more you do it with very, 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 very great zeal, the more the Lord will be satisfied with us. We do it that way. And so, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj says, we should serve so much and with our hearts and work hard for the Lord, so much so that the Lord is going to want to see us. Rather than us going to try to see the Lord, we should actually be serving so well because the Lord doesn't miss anything. He's practically in the heart, Paramatma. We should serve so that the Lord is going to want to see us. And in doing so, one of the things that I know works is don't say no to service. Anytime you hear service is there and it's needed, find a way to be the one to say yes and to do it. The more you do that, the more excited you'll be in Krishna consciousness. And the more we stay away coming up with excuses, the more our Krishna consciousness is going to start going south, going down. And the excitement won't be there anymore. When the excitement is not there, that means Utsahan is gone, enthusiasm is gone. So we have to stay with the whole process. First, agreeing to chant, agreeing to serve, agreeing to relate to devotees. These are all important points. So if any of these are lacking in us, then we have to revisit for the year 2024. Revisit, and Krishna's instructions we follow. We have to live a complete Krishna conscious life because he himself, Krishna, requires that. Yat karosi yat asnasi yat josi dadasi yat. He says, and yat tapasyasi. So all of it, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever sacrifices, that's your whole life. That's our whole life. Do that as an offering to me. So Krishna wants us, and then he says in Bhagavad Gita 1865, chapter 18, text 65, think about me all the time. Man mana bhava mat bhakto. Become my devotee. Offer obeisance to me and worship me. These are all the things that Krishna charges that we do. And when we do, our happiness will definitely come. We will feel it inside. We will feel it in our hearts. And there's nothing better than a happy devotee. And even better than that is a whole temple of happy devotees. Relating nicely and serving and being just eager to serve. Eager to serve. The ticket to going back to Godhead is greed, but greed in the right direction, not greed for selfish things for ourselves, but greed to serve. We should be very greedy to chant the holy name of the Lord, to serve the Lord. That way, even with Srila Prabhupada simplifying some things about Brahminical activities, we will still earn the mercy of the Lord. That's the whole point. Put in the effort so that the Lord becomes merciful to us. Going back to the spiritual world is a situation where the final approval is given by Krishna himself. The spiritual master that initiates us can help plead our case for us. Sometimes spiritual master's own spiritual credits, some can be transferred by his request to the devotee. But spiritual master will ask to do that when the devotee is serious. If the devotee is not serious, what's the point? Want another physical body? Sure. With plenty of planets, plenty of universes. But the suffering condition doesn't change. Therefore, it is better, as Srila Prabhupada says, aspire to go back home and take as many people. Start at whatever they are comfortable with. Even if it means that they're not ready to chant the holy name of the Lord, give them prasada, food stuff offered to the Lord, and the type that at least culturally they are more inclined to eat. And that way you take in Krishna. When we are doing our services, we should definitely offer flowers to Guru, flowers to our deities in the garland form or at the lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada heard one devotee ask a question about offering flowers. And Srila Prabhupada's response was wonderful. And so I'd like to share it with you. Any flower that's offered to Krishna or to Guru, the plant that flower came from, Srila Prabhupada said, that particular soul will be in the human body the very next life. I'll say it again. That plant from which the flower was offered, the soul in that plant will take a human body the very next life. So in offering flowers, how much we're doing for these plants, that would be unfortunate if they had to go through the cycles. So plant is in the tree cycle, they're just ahead of the aquatics, which means without the other plants and trees that don't have anything that could be offered to the Lord, they will have to go through whatever species of plants, and then to the insect species, whatever species, or reptiles, and then to the bird species, and then to the animal species before they ever become a human. But because part of its fruit or its flowers were offered to the Supreme Personality of God, they jump all of this and become a human. How much mercy is put in this. So these little things seems like it doesn't matter very much. But this is how much a devotee is actually helping others. Yes, so the mercy is actually given to the devotee also. The devotee is empowered to distribute mercy by just our activities that we do. And by hearing, we get to know what's going on, so that now when we offer, say, a flower, we know that that plant that the flower came from is now getting a chance to be in the human body the very next life. Hmm? Very, 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 very important that we give mercy that way. Hmm? So that is the situation with Brahminical activities. Vaishnav is a Brahman by activity and also a one that's surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, obeying. They're not just to the mode of goodness. Brahmins act in the mode of goodness. But the Brahminical activities, as well as what we've been taught in Krishna consciousness, we apply all of that. Then we ourselves would get elevated. We ourselves would be excited in Krishna consciousness, and at the same time, we'll be helping other souls, particularly those souls that don't have, that they are not in the human body. They have no way of understanding anything. They're just very dependent on the Lord for sustenance, or for sustenance, and also when we extend mercy, then the whole sojourn that would take a longer time now takes a short time to come to the human body. And the human body is the body where we can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Lord's mercy, ways distributed, there will be a chance for that particular soul that comes to the human body to hear about Krishna consciousness. Then it's up to them whether they take it seriously or not. But at least they are in the human body and they have the intelligence high enough to understand this. So, for the universal form, there are so many references to the universal form. This particular chapter is actually dedicated to the universal form of the Lord. But in the Mahabharata, when Arjuna requested to see the universal form of the Lord was so merciful, he made it possible for him not only to see it, but also he gave mercy to Arjuna by showing the universal form supporting the statement that he had made. He said, I am time I am, and I'm here to destroy. And except you, Pandavas, all on both sides, these soldiers, these Kshatriyas, they will be destroyed. They will go. Now, the universal form was the form showed to Arjuna, and at the time, Krishna backed up that statement that he's here to destroy by showing Arjuna the soldiers going into the mouths of the universal form and being destroyed. So he told them, and then he also showed them. And we all know show and tell is very, very powerful. We need it that way. So then Arjuna believed what was about to happen, and he realized that fight or no fight, that the universal form showed what was going to happen in the end. So Krishna's words are when he says, and we obey, because it is going to happen as he says it. For us, conditioned souls in the material world, the spiritual master guides, and the spiritual master takes from and lives by the word of God, what Krishna has said. So Krishna said that all of those would be destroyed. So now, as a Kshatriya, Arjuna simply had to do his work. And he had seen from the universal form what was going to happen. As a matter of fact, he got scared because he saw Krishna as his friend, and now Krishna looks like this. And all of this situation is happening, is supposed to happen in the future. You're getting a glimpse of it, and a huge glimpse at that. Glimpse in terms of that short time that he showed the universal form to Arjuna. So that should give us the confidence. Krishna also, and Srila Prabhupada said this in one lecture, that Krishna sent everybody to a better situation. Those who died on the Kurukshetra battlefield thinking of Krishna or looking at Krishna, they went to the spiritual world. And those that died without that situation, not thinking of or looking at Krishna, they went to the heavenly planets. So either way, they all got elevated. Some of them did leave, a good many of them did leave actually to go to the spiritual world. So that also tells us that when our time comes, we should be thinking about Krishna. What is the easiest way to ensure that you think about Krishna at the time of death? What's the easiest way? Well, there are two ways. We can keep chanting the holy name of the Lord, but there's also another way of these 9 processes of serving, Vandanam. We should pray specifically for that. Dear Lord, let me remember you at the time when my final exam is on. Let me remember you. This should be a daily prayer because you don't know, and we don't know when we're going to leave. Maharaj Pariksit had 7 days. He knew that in the first day he wasn't going to go. The second day he wasn't going to go. The third day it was going to take 7 days. So he knew. And in the 7th day, he was going to leave so that he could plan. And then he used, of course, that situation to hear from Shukadeva Goswami. But since we don't know when anything can happen to us, causing us to leave our bodies, this should be a daily prayer. And it's not for old people only, like us. No, it's a daily prayer. Old people are closer to death because the body itself is breaking down and telling. So we know already. But everybody, there's no telling when this can come. Therefore, it should be the prayer for everyone. And that way, and spread this, let other people know. We are here to pass our final exam. What's the point of going to school if you're not going to pass the final exams? What's the point of putting in all the effort if you're not going to pass the final exam? And the final exam is to remember the Lord at the time of death. So pray for that because the Lord is very merciful. And if you request it, and it's a spiritual request, come back to the Lord in the spiritual world. It's definitely a spiritual request. Come back to the Lord. So going back to the Lord should be also a priority for us as we do our activities. Now, one of the things that can sabotage it is we offend people. And it doesn't matter. The world, the spiritual world is a world of total happiness. So if we continue to be offensive here, then you're sending the message to the transcendental system, the Lord's devotees, that if you're allowed in the spiritual world, you're going to cause trouble there too and offend people. See, that's the reason you can't go. It makes all the sense though. That's the reason you can't go. If somebody is troublemaker, people who are nice don't want the troublemaker in their midst, among them. They don't. The same is true in the spiritual world. Therefore, that practice here, no matter how much our ego tells us to do something differently, because we're upset, still, remember, we're trying to protect our own devotional creeper. And therefore, it is important to be patient. And that's why it's there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The enthusiasm should be there, but also the patience should be there. And there are others too who say that, yes, much of our karma is forgiven for many lifetimes, but there's a little bit, Lord Brahma himself said, a little bit of it, we're going through some change. Krishna, actually, Srila Prabhupada explains that it's not karma per se, but some of the ways in which we're still attached to material energy and not quite removed from it. In other words, there's parts of it, our lower nature that doesn't make us fully pure yet. Those things, Krishna arranges some situations that materially appear difficult in order to get us away from those kinds of negative activities so that we can, in fact, improve the level of purity in our Krishna consciousness. So because of that, devotees go through some changes that materially appear challenging. But the Lord is always there. He says, my devotee will never perish. Arjuna, you declare that my devotee will never perish. So the question of perishing, that doesn't come up. Krishna is protective at all times. And we saw how he protected Prahlad Maharaj from a very, very big demon like, Hiranyakashipu. He still protected him, coming in the form of Shingadev. So the protection is there for all of us. And so we should do our Vaishnav work. We should do our Brahminical work by representing Krishna everywhere we go. And every time we get a chance to speak, tilt whatever is being spoken, even if it's a material thing, in such a way that the person would remember Krishna. And better yet, if they're ready to chant the holy name of the Lord, so much the better. I had a god sister. I have a god sister. She's still alive. She's in Florida. And every time she was going to town, she made sure that she wore tilak. And she knows that the people in town would see it as strange that a person working tilak. But she'll put a good amount of tilak on the face so you can't miss it. It's just, it's very bright and it shows. And so she explained the other day that when she talks to people, strangers, doesn't matter, they would ask, so what is this thing that you have in your face? Then she'll explain, and to explain from the Krishna conscious standpoint, the bottom part being the tulsi leaf, the top part being the Krishna's feet. So he explains all of that. But because he's explaining and talking about Krishna's feet, he has to bring Krishna into the conversation. And so this is his segue, a way of connecting people to Krishna because they're just curious to see what it represents and what the religion is. And then she goes on to tell them what they do. We do in Krishna consciousness and who the soul is. So then they give a little more. She gets a chance to preach a little bit. And she was using tilak to do that. Deliberately going into town and doing that. So people find different ways to serve. And that is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. A little bit about Vaishyas. So the Vaishyas represent the thighs of the Lord. Now, in the business field, that's the field for the Vaishyas, they are also the protectors for the cows. And in the book, The Higher Taste, it is explained how cows that are living are a greater economic asset than cows that, unfortunately, these people who take care of the cows actually take their bodies and use it for foodstuff. A living cow is it's economically better than a dead cow because a living cow can continue to supply milk from which we get cheese, we get butter, we get yogurt, we get all different high protein food. And they produce a lot. Besides, cows don't compete with us as far as crops and food. What do they eat? They would eat the rice hulls when they have sugarcane, the tops of the sugarcane. They would eat grass. So the things that we eat, they don't eat that. They don't actually interfere with our food stuff, vegetarian food stuff. So actually, they clean up very nicely in that way. But that is their diet. So there was a study by one of the U.S. Congress representatives representing Florida, by the way, and that he made a point, and this is actually relevant to us too. You can use it for those who like meat eating. You can get into a debate with them. If you do, then you have these to use. That the cows, at the time this was done, there were about 10 million cows in the United States. There are so much that they were producing that the government had actually stored 440 million pounds of butter and 545 million pounds of cheese and 765 million pounds of milk that had been dried, so not quite dried milk from the milk. And these were also increasing by 45, all of them, the increase per week was 45 million pounds. Another 45 million pounds, another 45 million. 10 million cows were producing this. So you get to the point where the government had no choice but to go through agencies that were supplying free food to people to give them the dairy products, so for free distribution to those who were poor and those who were hungry. So it's quite clear that the cows, and these were supplied by the living cows, not the dead cows. So it's abundantly clear that the living cows are actually the most valuable food resource by just the milk that they give. So shooters, well, a little bit. Shooters work for other people. Unfortunately, the situation now in school is go to school, finish, and then go look for a job and work for somebody in the company. That is shooter activity. If you're employed, automatically that is the situation. But of course, now in Kali Yuga, things have been set in such a way that to do something else, even to come up to the Vaishya level where you're in business, takes a challenge, but it is not impossible to do it. Some people do, in fact, do it. For devotees, we have the Devi Varna Ashram system, meaning that we can actually work in any of these positions, but also the main activity is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So for devotees, Bhakti Yoga comes first. And then, of course, for our sustenance, these other activities that we want to maybe use. So in that case, for devotees, we have the Devi Varnashram system, as well as, for the ashram, of course, we have brahmacharis, we have grihastas, we have vanapras, and we have sannyasis. So the ashram part is definitely solid still. And everybody is serving wonderfully. Srila Prabhupada went through all of them. All of the ashram system, starting off brahmachari, then getting married, then retiring, going to Vrindavan and coming to the United States, and then around the world to set up the different centers, ISKCON centers. And he came as a sannyasi at that time. So he went to all of the ashram. So he had experience in all of them. So if you asked him for any advice in the ashram system, he'd been there. Not only has he known it, but he had practical experience of it too. So Srila Prabhupada was a great, great, great godsend to all of us. And we should take advantage of everything that he preaches about. And the more we keep hearing and sharing, the more we'll understand and get more excited about Krishna consciousness. So I'm excited for 2024 coming. We have only a few hours, and for our time, some people may be in 2024 already based on where they are, if they're ahead of us. More than 12 hours, they're practically looking at 2024 in a few hours, if they're not there already. But all the same, we should be more excited about chanting and chanting attentively, because that's what opens the doors to Krishna consciousness happiness, the internal happiness that comes. So this is, and I'm also saying this in my own purification, we should pray that we become steady in chanting. And we should also pray that we remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the time of death. And in the meantime, distribute wherever you go, Krishna consciousness, just like Lord Chaitanya has charged us to do. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So dear devotees, let's share our excitement in Krishna consciousness 2024. And we can start now by making some comments here, or some takeaways, or some questions if you want to, in Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. You can unmute yourself if you want to make a comment.
Good morning, devotees. If anybody wants to unmute and go ahead. It's a little difficult for me to be excited today. I'm down with something, but definitely, Prabhu, I think we will start 24 with a little bit more service than we did in 23. I think that's the way. whenever I am looking at progress, I usually don't set huge, big goals. I feel if I'm heading in the right direction, that is good. Setting big goals and then not achieving and then falling down and then getting dejected and then, not doing anything at all is
heartening
worse than not
sometimes.
doing anything at all. So as long as I'm heading in the right direction, but definitely I think 24 will be better than 23, and I will try to see where I can do a bit more.
A bit more. Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful resolution. Now, even if they are big projects, if we look at it, this is what I've been taught, and just want to share that. If we look at it by breaking it into little pieces and doing a small piece at a time and achieving that little piece, it actually encourages us to go to the next thing, the next little piece, the next little piece, the next little piece. After all, if you look at all of these so-called gigantic products that are made even in this human material energy, something like an airplane that can transport about some 400 or 500 people. If you're sitting down in the airport and that airplane is sitting there, you see the huge, compared to our sizes, huge. But how did it start? A little bit here, and a little bit there, and a little wire here, and a little screw here, and people working on it look like little ants around this, and then the structure comes up. Same thing with the skyscrapers. So yes, they're huge. And to think that I'll build a skyscraper in a short period of time, that I have to agree with you. That's not going to happen. But as long as we take a little bit at a time, short-term goals, small short-term goals. That's what I was told to say. It actually works. So our big aims means it can be there, but we do a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And that would, enthuse us and encourage us until we get to the aim. But more importantly, we have to understand that everything we do is for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, according to his wish, according to his wish. So we don't go crazy over how things are sometimes not going according to how we wanted it to be. If we reach the Prabhupada's Lilamrita, when he was in India, he went through so many changes, so many denials. He got a building, he started a league of devotees, and the building got taken away from him. And the devotees had to split up. Even coming to America, I didn't know how he was going to come to America. Finally, he had to push Mataji in so many ways by being a little rebellious and not wanting to leave, Srimati Moraji, some compound in her offices to finally get here. So yes, we have to persist if we're looking for, we're working for a good cause. For Krishna consciousness is always a good cause, but the challenges will come. You keep praying and you keep going on. And everything, in fact, in the end, will be to our credit. Everything will be to our credit. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for your observations and your decision.
That is looking forward, and looking back. I want to express my gratitude to Srila Prabhupada again. If it was not for him, we would not have had this meeting here today on Zoom, this temple, this association, these devotees, these books. We had such a misunderstanding of Varnashrama in India when we were growing up. We were born Brahmanas. And the only time, at least in our family, the Varnashrama was looked at only at the time of marriage, when they're trying to find a suitable match for the son or the daughter. How do they go about? They go about looking for other Brahmana families, or we were very open to, we were not secluded in our association of friends with different varnas. But when it came to marriage, that is how it was always done. And this understanding of how it must be understood is thank you to Srila Prabhupada, among many other things, not just this one thing. There are just so many other things that have become clearer to me. It was always there. It's just that I did not have access to it.
Yeah.
And so
Srila Prabhupada, we owe him a lot. We owe him so much.
Yes.
And then he set up the society and now brought everybody, no matter how or what kind of birth that they took, in which family, up to, some of us, lectures, up to the Brahminical form. And now within ISKCON, if you're marrying within ISKCON, you don't have to even worry about the particular ashram or, the varna that the person is in. Because we've all been forced to, default living like Brahmanas.
Yeah.
Just by obeying Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
So this is all underneath. Sometimes we don't realize how fortunate we are. So you're bringing it up here. We give so much thanks to Srila Prabhupada. So much thanks to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Any other comments? Please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Accept mine, Lord Srila Prabhupada.
See, the way you said, this sloka, it says all the parts of the lords, that the mouth of the body, anything, that Purushasya Mukham Brahma, the purpose, translation says, Brahma represents the Brahmanas represented his mouth, Kshatriya's arms, and then vice versa. But all these parts are very important. Is that right? So that's what the whatever it is, body non-different from constitutionally, but the mouth or the head or the body is qualitatively more important than the legs also. Everything is important. So that's what I thought, whatever, like my Sobarade was saying, that we never knew this when we were young. Oh, we are Brahmanas and now we need to look for Brahmanas. Like that, we born and brought up like that.
Yeah.
But everybody is important. See, whatever it is, Sudras, everybody is important like body. That is one thing I learned. And another thing is that, we devotees, all these flowers, flowers or fruits, they come from the trees. The trees, they cannot go to God's feet, lotus feet, and then they can go. But we are devotees are the one instrumental to make that. Whenever I make the garland from our flowers in our house, I always think, oh, go to Krishna's lotus feet or Krishna's just
Around the
garland.
neck.
He can enjoy the smell and he can enjoy all that. So you will be lucky. So that's how I am just instrumental making the garland. But I always used to think Hare Krishna and make the garland. And anytime when I see the flower at the lotus feet, oh, you are so blessed. You are at the lotus feet. I don't know when I can go there, but the flower goes there to the lotus feet.
Yes.
So those are the things is very, very, very important, Prabhu. When I think it's though they cannot go, the tree cannot take the flower to the lotus feet, but that they are blessed when they go there.
Because you in a human body can take their flower and put it in a lotus feet, something the tree itself cannot do. And now we also know from Srila Prabhupada that the tree will in fact take next birth in a human, that soul will be in a human body next life. So just by doing this, a very important point you made, if we don't take the flower to the Lord, that benefit will not come to that plant. And in the same way, when we're having our offering of Boga to the Lord, and after our prayers and waiting for the Lord to eat, and when he finishes, then we take that Mahaprasad. If we give some to those that are the souls that are not in human bodies, for example, if you take some of the Maha water and you put it on a plant, that plant is also benefited. Same result. That plant will take a human body next life. Same result. So there's so much mercy from the Lord that just by serving this bhakti yoga that we do, if we're aware of some of those important details about it, and we deliberately help these others who are not in these other souls who are not in these physical bodies, it is tremendous, tremendous help, not only for them, but the Lord will be pleased with us because the Lord wants people to go back, souls to go back to the spiritual world. So by doing so, by giving the Maha water to plants, and sometimes even when the weather is nice and warm, that you can take a little bit of the actual boga that often has become prasadam and go outside and put it underneath a tree, small amount, so that the other living entity, insects, will come at night. And as long as you just take it away from your house, so they don't come piling into your house. If you, but you put it there, and in the back, so it's not so conspicuous, nobody can see it. But these little insects, they'll smell, they'll come. Even the birds might stop and take some, like that, and they all get benefited the very next life. So there's so much if we're just aware, sensitive to helping others to go. And then, of course, finally, our chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. If we chant out loud, then all of the entities in earshot of where we're chanting, they also get benefited. The souls get benefited by that. So there's so much mercy that we can give just by following things that Srila Prabhupada has asked us to do. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the comments, and we look forward to an exciting Krishna Conscious
Another
2000.
thing is, I shouldn't be waiting till last breath to chanting Hare Krishna. Is that right? I don't know whether I can do at the time or not. So
you pray.
I pray from now, chanting Hare Krishna and then thinking of God and making something, and so that at the end of my life, I may or may not be able to do.
It's explained that when the senses are shutting down, the physical body gives so much pain. Yeah, so much pain. So when that is happening, actually, when things are happening, it's a little bit challenging. People tend to say, "Oh my God," right? Oh my, that's when they remember God. So when that is happening, we chant the holy name of the Lord. We remember Krishna. We remember Krishna. And in fact, if we're doing that now and putting in that prayer that we can remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna has already designed this physical body that when the senses are shutting down, the last sense to shut down is the sense of hearing. So if devotees come around and they start playing Krishna conscious bhajans, kirtans, to hear the holy name of the Lord, then before the person goes very close to death, they will have already heard from it because the ears are still working. You literally can wake up somebody now that is sleeping by just calling their name. The sense of hearing is always active. So that would be, this is to help each other. So all the bodies are hearing this. If somebody is leaving their body and you get to know about it, please make sure that there's some listening, playing device close to this person that will be playing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. If you don't have time to stay by them the whole time, there should be some sort of recorder, playing the Hare Krishna Mantra so they can hear and remember Krishna before this sense of hearing also shuts down. Then there's a very big chance of them going back to the spiritual world. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. God Shri Prabhupada.
I always like your classes.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna Pariksit, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for the message on service. And that's something certainly to take forward into this new year. And all look to increase, our service, and just the remembrance of that. That is really where our enthusiasm, our joy comes from. And as devotees seeking to serve Krishna, doing bhakti is devotional service. And so that message was really powerful. I appreciate that. I had a question about, I guess, the confusion sometimes I feel in devotees between, so in the spiritual communities and their spiritual service, they are behaving more like Brahmins. Many are initiated Brahmins. They're cooking for the deities, or they're doing some preaching work, or they're teaching, they're giving classes. And these are all qualities of a Brahmin.
Mm-hmm.
But then occupationally, they find themselves doing the occupation oftentimes as Sudras. And they're going out, they're working in a business or a factory, they're working for a boss, they're working 8 hours, 10 hours a day, and to earn a paycheck. And so sometimes there's this confusion, or like a kind of like a split lifestyle that they find themselves frustrated with. And I was wondering if you could maybe say a few words about that.
The devotees live a double life. We have to accept it. We live a double life, partly in association of devotees and serving, and partly in association of non-devotees. Some of whom don't even want to hear about Krishna. Of course, while we're working, everybody's environment may be a little different. But if you're in an office, you can put things in the office, pictures, maybe a music playing device turned down in volume, playing kirtans or bhajans, in order that you may hear about Krishna. Because Krishna really has said, wherever you are, think of him. So you just find ways to think of the Lord. When you have pictures there, every time you turn to do, even though you were doing things that are supposedly non-devotional, it says supposedly because we can get arguments where you can turn everything into Krishna consciousness. But given the way things are in Kali Yuga now, if you have those pictures, it will remind you of Krishna. Pictures that remind you of spiritual master, of Gonitai, have it there in the office. Some people carry things with them that remind them of Krishna. Sometimes you might put some badge or whatever, and that will remind you of Krishna. Badge to wear it, remind you of Krishna. There's so many ways, and this is another thing to also pray about, to the Lord to give you the intelligence, to give us the intelligence to make sure we spiritualize wherever we are when we're working, wherever we are. So then the other thing also is, of course, as you said, when you work, then you get a paycheck. If you take part of it and give it to the temple for the temples, paying their bills and keeping the building and the things that you need to buy going, then you're also serving. It's an indirect way. It's not like giving things directly, but still, because this world now operates based on money, you have to buy everything. Then if you contribute, then you basically have channeled the service, the work now partly to Krishna consciousness, because some of the products of it now you're giving to the temple to help. So in that way, then directly or indirectly, we are actually in touch with Krishna the whole time. So there's really no confusion that should be, if you look at it from that point, that yes, I'm living this life, for sometimes I'm with devotees, and sometimes I know a good bit of the day, 5 days a week at least, I have to spend time with non-devotees. But it all has to do with how we spiritualize that arena when we're there. And the fruits of what we get from working, give some to Krishna. We have to sustain ourselves, but we have to give some to Krishna conscious projects too, especially our temples that we go to, the primary temples that we go to. And that will actually help for us to grow and get more excited. We have a sense of ownership. We're part of it and making it work in the temple. So this is all things that if we're not doing it up to this point, then in 2024, it should be a part of our lives. Thank you for asking the question. Hare Krishna.
Jai Prabhu, thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Hare
That was
Krishna,
great.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Quick comment. Thank you very much for your nice and very inspiring class throughout the year.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy.
I really enjoyed the stories about Radharani and Krishna. It's excellent, very nicely all the time. And thank you very much. And I'm just thinking about the new year. So this year I think I was not very consistent, but next year I will try to be more consistent, and really I will try to think at the end of the day that I really feel satisfied for doing something consistently. That's what I want to do next year. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a humility on your own part, talking about you have to be consistent. But this is a great thing about putting it out, or is that everybody's forced to look back. Have I been consistent myself? No? If not, then join the same thing. Suman Mataji talking about that. We have to be consistent in everything that we do.
Yeah, and thank you. And I was thinking about when Drona Prabhuji, Chari Prabhuji said about this remembering Krishna at work. So I'm thinking that we can carry little flute with us. Like keep in my bag, our bag, little flute that will remind Krishna's paraphernalia.
In any way that you can remember about Krishna.
Yeah.
You can put a small calendar, but a Krishna conscious one,
Yeah.
in your office. Everybody sees the calendar, but you see the pictures of Krishna in it, and it reminds you about Krishna.
Yeah.
So many ways you can do. On your
Everyone
computer
will
screen, take a picture of Krishna and set it as background. So every time the computer opens up, you see Radha Krishna first thing. Like that. And the mind just goes to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna
God
Prabhuji. Thank you
sisters,
for your
Hare
class,
Krishna.
and very, very happy New Year, Krishna conscious New Year.
To everybody, happy Krishna conscious New Year. Mother Vindhyavali, you were going to say something?
Yeah, like your God sister, you said, at Tilak, and she started saying that was a very, very good one. When before I became to Krishna conscious, I'm putting this bin thing, and in my workplace, everybody used to ask what is that means.
Yeah.
So like that, this Tilak, like she began to start Krishna and Krishna's thing. That was very good way of preaching and also, It's very
I was smart in this one.
That's really very good, Prabhu. I like that one.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. We come up with different ways.
Yeah.
And all of these are, but what am I going to do to make, just pray about it. Krishna is the one that is connected as Paramatma to our intelligence. Just pray about it and ideas will come. Yeah. And you just, use them like that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
All right. Any last questions or comments? Okay. So we'll stop here then. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhivya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Hare Krishna Bhaktadev Jai. Good to see you. Happy New Year, Happy Krishna Conscious New Year to everybody.
Yeah. You too, Pariksit.
Hare Krishna.
We need more classes like this in New Year also.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.